If this is your first time here, welcome. I'm Glenn. And by the end of this video, you'll know why a guy who was scrubbing toilets at 62 is the one teaching you this. And if you've been around a while already, thanks for sticking with me, because today I'm finally telling you the whole reason I'm doing any of this. Let me show you what I mean. The retirement advice you were handed was never built for a life like yours. It was built for a man with 40 years of steady, uninterrupted income, climbing every year, putting away 10 to 15% without fail. Not for a man who lost his job in his 50s and never got a call back. Not for a man whose income went up and down more than it ever went in a straight line. Not for a man putting money into a 401k that answers to the market, and Social Security that answers to the government, and nothing that answers to him. Let me show you what that actually looks like in numbers, because this is the part that hit me hard. The general guideline that financial advisors use is that you need roughly $300,000 saved for every $1,000 a month you want in retirement. So if you want $5,000 a month, that's $1.5 million saved by the time you're 65. The median retirement savings for a household headed by someone 55 to 64 right now is $185,000. That's not a gap. That's the friggin' Grand Canyon. And if that number just hit you the way it hit me, I need you to hear this next part clearly. That is not a character flaw. That is not you falling behind from some failure of discipline. That is a standard that was never built with your life in mind in the first place. Here's the piece worth holding on to, though. The math only breaks you if saving is the only lever you've got. It's not. There's a second lever most retirement advice never even mentions, and we'll get into that. So before we go any further, let me tell you what this channel is not. This is not real estate, and it's not crypto, and it's not some course built around a highlight reel of numbers and a hard pitch behind the CTA. And it's absolutely not one of those network marketing programs dressed up in a business suit. If that's what you're expecting, I understand, but that's not what's happening here. I want to ask you something. When you first realized retirement was not going to look the way you thought it would, what did you do? Did you have a plan? Did you stop looking at the numbers? Let me know in the comments, but I'll go first. I stopped looking at the numbers for years. So if the traditional model is asking a question most of us over 50 cannot answer, how much do I need saved? What's the alternative? There's actually a different question. Not how much do I need saved, how much do I need coming in? An income stream doesn't get drawn down. It produces, it grows. Bring in $1,000 a month from something you built and the picture changes. Bring in $2,000 or $3,000 layered on top of whatever Social Security you have coming in, and retirement stops being something you're afraid of and starts being something you can actually build toward. Building income doesn't replace saving. It's what actually makes saving possible again. That's the second lever I mentioned. It's not a trick. It's not complicated. It's just a piece nobody hands you. Now, I know what it sounds like when someone says build a business at this age. It sounds like starting from zero, learning something foreign, competing with 25-year-olds who grew up doing this, spending money you don't have on tools you don't understand. That picture is exhausting, and it's also wrong. What I'm talking about isn't starting over. It's using what you already spent decades building, your experience, your judgment, a skill, a hobby, something you've already figured out for yourself that other people are still stuck on. The only new piece is learning how to connect that to people who need it using a simple system built for someone who has about 2 hours a day, not 40. So let me tell you a little more about who I am. I started building a real career in Nashville while I was in college, mostly during that final senior year, in an industry I loved, doing something I was really good at. Then just 2 months before graduation, another opportunity came along that seemed like an even bigger dream, and I chased it instead. I interviewed, I waited, I stayed in the relationship for years believing it was still coming. And then one day I found out the door quietly closed. The bigger dream never materialized. And I spent the next 40 years trying to find my way back to that same feeling, knowing exactly where I was supposed to be. Along the way, there were good chapters and there were long, hard ones, careers that I lost through no fault of my own. I tried 2 different network marketing programs. I tried Amazon FBA twice and lost more money than I made both times. There were other attempts too, plenty of them. Years where nothing seemed to stick no matter how hard I worked or how much I wanted it to. I'm telling you that not to complain about it, but because it matters why you're watching this right now. I've tried a lot of what's out there, and I know what doesn't work for a man over 50 because I've lived through most of it personally. At 62, I took a part-time job at a restaurant chain just to put gas in my car. Part of that job was cleaning bathrooms and emptying trash, the same job I had when I was 12 years old. I want you to sit with that for a second, not for sympathy, but because some of you know exactly what that feels like. Looking around where you are and realizing the distance between where you thought you'd be and where you actually are is not small. But the hardest part wasn't the bathroom. It was watching my wife carry our family financially for years alone with little complaint. She never made me feel like a burden, and she stayed anyway. And in that bathroom, in that stillness, I remember thinking one simple thing, clear enough that it caught me off guard. I was still the one who got to decide what happened next. Nobody else, just me. And that was the moment I decided to stop waiting and start building. There's a lot more to that story, the whole 40 years, where it started and everything in between. I wrote it all down, and if you ever want the whole thing, I'll drop the link below. But that's not why we're here today. Here's why we're here. Not long after that day in the bathroom, I came across a free blueprint on this very platform. It didn't teach me everything, it just showed me where to start. And that was enough to take the first step. I'm still working that same part-time job while I build this, about 2 focused hours a day. So here's where I actually stand today, no filter, right here, right now, before I've earned a single dollar from any of it. I'm not going to pretend I've already made it because I haven't. What I have is a simple system built on content and email instead of chasing people. It doesn't require a following I don't have or money I don't have to spend. The tech is minimal and easy to learn if you're willing to be taught. I promise you that. And here's the thing I want you to sit with for a second. This isn't a highlight reel from someone who figured it out a decade ago and came back to tell you all about it after the fact. This is happening in real time, out loud, mistakes and all, so you can watch exactly how it's built instead of hearing about it after the fact. And I'm not way ahead of you. I'm just a few steps down the road, close enough to remember exactly where the hard parts are. The difference is I've tried almost everything else first, so I know what doesn't work, and I know the way from here. So is this channel for you? If you're a man over 50, worried the retirement math isn't working, if you've done the calculations and keep coming up short, if you've got decades of experience, you're just not sure how to turn into anything, if you're tired of advice that was never built for the life you've actually lived, then yes, you're in the right place. Now, this channel isn't a pep talk, although there will be plenty of encouragement along the way. It's not a course that hands you a stack of videos and then disappears the moment you have a real question. And it's not something that leaves you to figure out the tech and setup all on your own. It's a real path built from what you already have in the hours you actually have available, with real support behind it when you're ready to go further. If any of this sounds like your story too, hit subscribe. This is Wisdom and Wealth. Wisdom from everything I just told you, and the wealth side, the tools, the mistakes, and the real progress lived out loud every week. I don't want you to miss where this goes. Here's what I'd offer you if we were sitting across a coffee shop table instead of a screen. The exact starting point that was handed to me. Not empty theory, not a stack of promises. Just the blueprint that showed me where to begin. The same one I followed myself. And if I'm honest with you, it didn't stop there for me either. It led me into learning real digital marketing skills I didn't have before. From there, I started marketing things I didn't have to create myself, and eventually started creating and marketing some of my own. None of that happened overnight, and none of it happened because somebody handed me a magic answer. It happened because I took the first step, and then I kept taking the next one. Right now, all I'm putting in front of you is that first step, but I want you to know something before you take it. You won't be walking it alone. There's a community behind that first step. Over 60,000 people, all learning the same skills, all walking the same road. Some of them are a lot further down the road than I am, and every single one of them started exactly where you're starting right now. When the fear shows up and the doubt creeps in, wondering if you're too late or too far behind, and it will, that's exactly when it's helpful to have people around you who have stood exactly where you're standing. You'll have me, and you'll have them. If you want the blueprint, all you have to do is send me a quick message in the comments and I'll get the link straight to you, or just click the link in the description if that's easier. Either way, once you're on that page, just drop your email in and my free blueprint will land in your inbox in just a few minutes. No download, no sales call, nobody chasing you afterward, just the next step from someone who's just a few steps ahead, who's happy to walk it with you. I'm building something that answers to no one but me, and I think you can too. Remember, you were made for more than just watching and waiting. So let's press on.